Hi, everybody. I'm Grace Bubeck, and this is the second Love Live event. With apologies for being a bit late, it took a bit of time to get Marlies to join us, but she is here now. So I just want to also say hello to Susanne. Hi, Susanne.
Hello.
And hi, Marlies.
Hi, Grace.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad you're with us.
Yeah, me too.
And we have somebody else on the Hangout, Joss, but his video feed isn't live yet. So he'll come on, no doubt, when he's ready. So hi to all of you, and happy Easter, and thank you for having the patience to stay with us whilst we were getting the connection problems sorted out. So yes, so I just oh dear, I just saw a YouTube image here. Hold on just a sec. I'm just going to have to bring that up for the comments. Oh no, I'll do that later. So let's see. I sent a message around, an online newsletter, and also posted something on Facebook about what the meaning of Easter is for me. And, you know, somehow there are these things that are meaningful to us in our lives. And Easter has always been something quite meaningful to me. And hi, somebody's just joined. Harriet. Hi, I'm going to mute you just for a sec because it's a bit loud. So if you're on the Hangout, just make sure you're muted until you're on, okay? Just so that the background noise isn't too bad. So yes, as I was saying, we have these things that are meaningful to us in our lives, and for me, Easter has always been very meaningful. And I was, you know, in that message today, I was trying to write about what it is that's meaningful to me about Easter. And I'm not sure I totally managed to put that down on the page, but it was a first attempt. It was a first kind of, you know, try, and so I'll try again now. The thing about Easter for me is that there is this, you know, this story about the historical Jesus who died painfully on the cross. So it's a story of human suffering, and then on Easter Sunday of resurrection. And, you know, there's many ways of understanding dying and understanding resurrection. And for me, what the dying is for me is really the human experience over and over and over. Because every time we struggle with life, you know, we suffer. And when we do that consciously, when we allow our little selves, our human selves, the conditioning that is there, that is struggling with what's happening, if we allow that to die, then, you know, what comes to the foreground is what cannot die. And what therefore cannot be resurrected either, because it's always been there and it always will be there. And that is the radiance, the light, the love that we are. So, you know, when I allow myself to die a little death of, you know, feeling kind of a bit shaken by technical difficulties of bringing Marlies on, then what doesn't die is that you know, I'm still here, and life is still here, and that life that is here in me, that is here in Marlies, that is here in Susanne, it's never gone anywhere, and it's never died. And so that's really the meaning of Easter for me, is that it brings somehow, it is about the very humanness that is our human experience in this life, and also what is beyond that humanness, but what is alive in that humanness. So it's about that. So I won't say more than that. Maybe I'll just give a bit of space to Marlies and Susanne. Marlies, do you want to comment something on that, or
Yeah,
say something yourself?
Yeah, I can say something. First of all, for me, I didn't grow up Christian in any way, and so Easter doesn't really have like a very spiritual meaning to me. Besides, as a kid, we had eggs, egg hunts, and so I can speak and say like, well, yeah, it's Good Friday, Christ died, and then today is the resurrection, the rebirth, and in that way I can speak to how there's birth, how there's death and rebirth. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's just really interesting, just as in a historical way, to see how Easter existed already before Christ, how it was really in the goddess tradition, and Easter comes from Maostre, and she's the great mother goddess from the Saxon North European people. And so I find that actually more fascinating. That's more intriguing for me, like how fascinating there's these original goddess traditions that had these honors and worshipping the goddesses. And around the Mediterranean, there are different goddesses that are being worshipped, like Aphrodite, etc., etc., that were all as part of spring, as part of reborn, and something new that comes to life. And we can see it just during the year, like spring, summer, autumn, and winter. But we can, in a way, the same what you speak, on a daily basis, we have our spring, our deaths, and our reborns. And the more we can just fully receive that, how anything comes to life any moment, and anything dies any moment. And yes, what remains is that other beauty. I'm actually looking here out the window, and there are these amazing trees that are starting. It's spring, and the green is just so vibrantly green, and it's just the beauty of love that shines through as that light. And to me, that's Easter today, but tomorrow it's Easter too, and Tuesday is Easter too. To me, it's any moment really. It's like death and reborn, and the more I or we can receive that and live that, the easier it is just to be here and rest and shine as that original being that we are. So that's my comment.
That's great. I love it. Thank you for bringing the goddess in here too, and that older tradition. Yeah. And I just want to say, I mean, this is this event is very, it's very in the here and now. It's very improvised. There's no script. There's no theme really. So, and it's a bit of a cross between Easter and Love Live. So, whatever it is, whatever you feel you want to throw in there, go ahead and do it. So, I love your contribution, Marlies.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's see what Susanna has to say.
Yeah. So, about 13 years ago, I think it was 13 years ago, my father died on Good Friday. I was with him when he died, and it was such a powerful experience for me to be with him. And the amount of emptiness that came through during that time, during the 48 hours or something that he was actually dying, taking his time dying, was so palpable for me. And then a few days later, on Easter Sunday, I had a very, like a profound seeing beyond the sense of the personal sense of I. And it didn't dawn on me until later, the kind of the interesting correspondence of how this happened. My father died on Good Friday, and the resurrection was, in a sense, my own resurrection. And it took me actually several years to really realize this happened on Good Friday, and that my father died. And we were not a Christian family. I actually feel grateful for having been raised agnostic, and I was raised in Europe. And but we did do Easter. We did do the eggs, and I loved looking for the whole hide and seek thing. Was to me really delightful, and it kind of also speaks to our journey with ourselves. How we play hide and seek with ourselves. And the delight in finding the eggs. It's kind of like the delight in finding ourselves. And I had a similar with I raised 2 children, and Easter was one of my favorite times, much more than Christmas or any other time, because it has a sense of magic, and then it does touch upon the nature element that you hide the eggs and it's outside, and you get maybe your hands dirty while you look for the eggs, and the green is everywhere. And so you're touching on Mother Earth and the element of rebirth that comes from Earth, from Mother Earth herself. And the eggs, where do they come from? Besides in the American tradition, the Easter Bunny, they come from the Earth, really. So, and it nourishes us, it feeds us, and it feeds us for another re-entry back into life. We get nourished, and we get to participate. Spring to me is a time for re-emerging and participating with life. And so the same thing goes with the search, the spiritual search. The hide and seek that we do, for whatever reason, for many of us, the luminous self seems to kind of take a back seat and hide from itself in a not as conscious way, and then we go in search. Many of us go in search of it, and then we remember, rediscover it, like finding the Easter egg, and we're like so much more full. I found myself so much more available and present through that rediscovery. So much of myself, more of myself, was on board, and continues to be. And it's an ongoing, as both of you said, death and rebirth. But every day, things fall away, and every day the absence reveals itself, and then new things can appear out of that absence. And, yeah, so that's my little bit right now.
Oh, wow. Thank you. That's so interesting, I had no idea what would come out of that question, like what does Easter mean to you? And it's so, it's obviously so differently meaningful in different ways.
And when I said that I appreciated, just for me to have been raised agnostic, it was the reason I said that is because I feel like it has given me more allowance to discover what is true for me. What is true for me, not so much that I have any feeling that it's that any other way of being raised is less than perfect. But for me, the way I was raised was perfect.
Well, I think it's very powerful when what you're speaking of, Susanna, being with the death of your father, the passing on Good Friday. I've been just writing an article for a Dutch non-duality magazine, and I actually start the same, but then with the passing of my mom, and that happened 40 years ago. And how totally, I didn't speak so much about what you speak about, the passing experience. For me, more what was huge was seeing a dead body. That was the first dead body I saw in my teens. And sitting next to her and just being totally mesmerized by her face, because the life was gone. And I remember just sitting next to her and just kind of like, and looking at her face. They had kind of, put a little rouge on her cheeks and her lips, and just looking at her face, and then kind of closing my eyes and looking at her face, and just really like, wow, the life is gone. There's just dead flesh here. And she looks like ancient. She looks like those ancient, how do you call it, wassenbeelden that you have at Madame Tussauds in Amsterdam. Those wax bodies, and that was for me also a very powerful experience, because it really brought me. I was filled with the question, what's that? And I know I'm gonna die, but what is dead? What is life? What is the art of life? So when, however painful it is, when somebody close to us dies, it's also, it brings something to life inside us, just questions and big gifts of experiences in those moments, because everything falls away, really. Yeah.
I'd like to add my own experience of the being with my very good friend's, my best friend's mother when she passed away. And for me, this was actually an incredibly beautiful experience, in the sense that I don't know how, but I felt, I saw in the moment that she passed, I saw her soul leaving her body.
Mm.
And I knew that that was it. And in the hours after, there was just such peace in the room, but also in her body, even though it was dead. There was no life left. But the life that is beyond the physical life was so incredibly alive, that I just went into bliss. I remember, actually it was quite a poignant time for me, because I had surgery for cancer, and there was quite a bit of fear at the time. Obviously, when you're dealing with cancer, the question of death does come, and the fear comes. Came for me in any case. And so what was also amazing to me was that when I returned home, it was a 1.5-hour drive, 2 hours maybe. It was so clear to me. I felt totally blissful, and it was very clear to me that it was her time to die, but not mine.
Mm.
It was like such a clear knowing that there was no doubt about that. And so it was a very powerful experience, and I think it always is. I mean, being just as the birth of a baby is powerful. I've not had occasion to experience that, but being around a person who lets go of this earthly life is definitely a very powerful experience. And what it invites us into is that the knowing of the life that's beyond this life, the physical life. And what you shared, Susanne, is kind of in that same direction. And I'm wondering whether, Marlies, you had a sense of that too, even though here you were with the dead body.
Mm-hmm. That I have a sense of what? That there's more, or
of what was still alive, what was alive.
Yeah, for me, what was really clear that what was life was gone in the body, that had left the body.
Mm-hmm.
That was for me the main thing, because I didn't grow up in a family with any religion. The religion I grew up with was soccer, so that's a different kind of religion. So for me, that was it. Really, just being totally mesmerized, and I just was filled with the question: what is death, and what is life, and what does die, and what's the art of living, and kind of, I was in my teens, so I was young. I didn't really think more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was very, very big gift on my journey, so to speak, my journey home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, in a way, in my teens, like every year somebody died close to me, either a friend or my father, my grandparents, my aunts. You know, every year somebody died, and it just was for me just a deep experience of really deeply knowing this body is going to drop. We're toast. This body is going to drop. We don't know when, we don't know how, but it's going to drop. And then really asking what is life, what is birth, what is death. So for me it was brought more questions. There was not a knowing then that I am that life and I am that love, and you know that was not realized then. It was just a knowing that that there's something more, and that it just catapulted me just on the path, really.
Yeah. Yes, I mean it can have that role too, you know, that it just opens up all these questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a portal.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, a doorway into the beyond, actually. A great invitation. And there are so many ways that we die, obviously. But one of the gifts that my father gave me with his dying is that he was, until the last couple hours where he couldn't speak anymore, he was in deep appreciation for his life. And he was just basically, in my mind, he was living gratitude. He was an epitome of living gratitude. And he didn't believe in the afterlife or anything. He was just in gratitude. And gave me such a gift. One of the greatest gifts, really, that he ever gave me. And when he died, he had these light blue eyes, like the color of the sky, you know, that real clear blue, light blue. And when he died, his eyes were open, and I felt like I was looking into the infinite. I felt like I was seeing the infinite through whatever, maybe what he was seeing. It was just like it went on and on and on and on. And I don't know where it came from, where it arose from. But I said to him, after he had taken his last breath, after a little while, I said, I will see you again. I find that so interesting that I said that I will see you again. It was like this knowing, and it's not like I have a story or a belief inside that we see one another in the physical form in some kind of heaven. But there was something that knew that it would see him, that energy, whatever he was, again. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And you know, I just want to say, I mean, when I said I saw the soul leaving the body, I don't know I have beliefs about that either, you know. It was certainly not at that time. I didn't have any religious beliefs, but that's what it looked like. You know, that's the only way that I could describe it. So, and maybe words fail that seeing of something leaving the body that was alive. But that's what I saw. So, you know, it's not things that we find words for easily. So we just do as well as we can. I see that Jeannie has come on, Jeannie McGillivray. So I just want to bring you on, Jeannie. Hi, Jeannie.
Hi. Hi.
Hi,
Nice
Judy.
to meet you. Hi. Hi,
Hi.
Suzanne. Hi, Melise.
Hi,
Nice
Jeannie.
to meet you. Hi.
Too. Yeah.
Beautiful to hear your stories of your kind of most close family members passing away. I had a very similar experience. My father passed away about 18 months ago, and he'd had dementia for a long time.
Mm.
And about 2 weeks before, actually there was a time before then, it was probably about 6 months before he died, and he went downhill really rapidly over a 2 week period. So the 6 months previously he was quite compos mentis. He had Alzheimer's, so he wasn't really making structured sentences, but I had a real capacity to be with him in not knowing, in not needing him to make sense, in not needing him to have a conversation in order to have some rapport with him. And there was one time we were waiting for my mum. She'd gone in for an appointment for something, and it was just me and him, and he'd been sitting for a long time with his eyes closed, and I was just sitting with him. And he said something that was so out of character, it absolutely blew me away. But he was sitting there with his eyes closed, and he said, do you know? And then there was this beautiful long pause while I waited, because I had no idea what he was going to say. And then he said that we are infinite.
Mm.
And I was kind of absolutely blown away. Infinite is not in my father's vocabulary. He was a very Victorian working man. And he said, we go back a very long way. And it was so beautiful, and it was a real taste of what his death was to bring. Because a couple of weeks before he actually passed away, he slipped into the infinite, and his body was breathing, and you could talk to him and say, would you like a drink? Do you need food? Do you need to eat something? And he would bring himself around, but it was obviously a complete inconvenience. He would kind of sneer at you as if to say, he was completely gone. He was completely in heaven. It was a most beautiful experience, because it kind of communicated to me what heaven really is. He was absolutely in his infinite self, and his body was breathing, and he breathed for kind of 2 weeks, and gradually stopped taking food, and then gradually stopped taking water, and then one day the breathing stopped.
Mm.
Mm.
It was just so beautiful. It was one of the most kind of meaningful, profound, the whole thing, the whole Alzheimer's journey was such a profound teaching. And such a profound experience. For a long time, actually, it really took away. Obviously, there's a bodily fear of death that the body has. The body definitely wants to perpetuate itself. It definitely wants to stay well, and it wants to live. But it really removed any kind of existential fear of death for me. So it really was a profound gift.
Mm.
I just that guy.
Thank you for sharing that, Jeannie.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so lovely, and I'm wondering, Nishkala just came on too.
You did, I saw.
Whether Nishkala, you have something you want to share on that theme?
On the theme of dying or death?
Whatever, I mean, you came on, and
yeah, I was actually on YouTube before, but it was freezing, so we decided to come here.
Okay.
the chat. Video is freezing.
Your mic is, let me see whether I can make your mic a bit louder here.
I also want to say thank you, Jeannie, for your sharing.
Oh, pleasure.
I feel really touched, and I felt kind of goosebumpy from when you were talking about the infinite. Just feel it, like it's like the infinite is infinite still now, and I can still feel now
Exactly.
that he was residing in, and that
In that,
you got to co-reside with him. Sounds
yeah.
like
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, it really was. It was incredible. He was just to hear that word, come out of his mouth. It was so authentic. It was so impossible and just so beautiful. It really was. It was just incredible.
Jeannie, I missed that part when you shared in the beginning. So what was the word?
So he'd
Father?
he had his eyes closed for a very long time, and he suddenly said, "Do you know?" to me. So he was engaging me. And he said, it was actually this way around, he said, we go back a very long way. And then he said, we go back all the way to the infinite. And it was just incredible. It was incredible. It was very touching, especially for a daughter who knows she's losing her father in a way. But I haven't ever felt that he's gone either. It's an incredible sensation. It feels like he still lives, just in a totally different relationship. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Nishkala, did you want to add anything to that?
Poignancy. That's the love affair with death for me, is the poignancy of it. It's just so, and it's like where we all meet so deeply. Whether we experience it through another's death or the contemplation of our own passing, it's the same. It's so clearly the same. There's like there's no divider there. And it's like the ultimate intimacy. And the first death I actually was privileged to witness was my father's in 2007. It was poignant in terms of timing. It was the day before Father's Day. That was a very poignant Father's Day. And I was very close to him. We were very close souls, just always such a resonance with us that didn't require words and he had a resonance with my love of truth, though we didn't speak about it. I knew he was so receptive to it. I had already moved away. He didn't know. I was 4 hours distance away. It wasn't necessary for him to know because his normal mind was already not there really that much for about a year or more. And I arrived the day before he passed. And it was a gift to me to meet any fear about that too, because my mother had passed about 11 years before, but I wasn't present at the time with her. So of course there's, all sorts of feelings can show up. whatever's there, still present in us, will be revealed. And you know, present with the feelings was such a stillness. And through the night, the breathing was very strong. It wasn't like, oh, he just dropped off quietly, and, you know, like in the movies. It was an active, and they even call it the active dying phase. They even called that, and the two deaths I've witnessed were both that way. Were both not what we call a peaceful looking experience necessarily. There was dynamism. We don't have to bring an interpretation to that, how that is for them. We don't know, I think. You know, like it can, you know, we can bring our drama to that. But I remember coming into the room, I didn't sit with him with that. I wanted to be in another space a lot of the time, but I did come in and visit him. And it was just like being guided through. It was like we were all being held by a very strong field of grace. And it becomes, you know, from the two deaths I've witnessed, so palpable in this space that, and there was like an assurance that it was being handled by a, you know, by intelligence was handling it all. I have a background in yoga, and though I don't think much about a lot of the content of it anymore, what came at the time that my father was passing was one of I forgot now the name in Sanskrit of this force that handles the dying process. But it became very vivid for me as a real, you know, just as the same force that guides the birthing, guides the physical passing and the rest of it, whatever else is happening. And in the morning so I got some maybe 4 hours sleep or so, and in the morning my sister and I came into his room, and there was still a very slight faint breath. And I was holding his hand, and I felt just this is, I'm telling the details here, but just these words wanted to pour out of gratitude for him, such a deep thank you for knowing him, and for it was just so just such a, from the heart, the immediacy and the aliveness of the moment of sharing that, like, you know, like I've never experienced quite like that. And I felt a little bit like a squeeze in his hand, the hand, slight pressure. And then my sister and I witnessed his the last breath happening. He was 93. So. But I didn't go by ideas of what I should do or how I should be or sitting in the room with him after, or I just went with whatever I felt guided to do, very personally, you know, or directly. And then 2.5 years, almost 3 years later, just shy of 3 years later, my beloved partner, teacher, husband passed. And so Dad's was like opening that door for me to sort of have some training.
Mm.
The biggie.
Mm.
And it was different. It was a different experience, of course, when someone is that close. At least from my perspective. I'm only speaking from my perspective, but when I'd never had such a closeness with anyone before, like to that degree, on different levels, and also a wonderful teacher in his way, and very integrated, really bringing it into life, and. I don't know if there are any questions about that, but I can understand how you may not want to bring up questions about that. You're welcome to.
Well, thank you so much, Nishkala, for sharing. That's very beautiful. And I also need to say I need to leave the conversation because I only had time till 11 today. So I just wanted to say goodbye and thank you all so much. And it was wonderful because I'd never met Jeannie or Susanna or Nishkala. So it's wonderful to meet all of you. And wishing all of you a happy Easter and happy death and rebirth. And
Well,
thank you so much, Grace, for inviting me.
Yes. Thank you for coming on, and I'm glad we were able to bring you on.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, took some time, but you were able to be with us. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
Wishing you
Bye.
a good Easter too.
Thank you.
Bye. So I just want to say, maybe we could take this juncture for me to just have a quick look at the YouTube comment thread. And I just want to say to Joss, if you want to come on and share something with us on the Hangout, feel free. You can unmute your mic and video and be with us that way. I'm just going to take a quick look at the YouTube comment thread. So let me do that. Wow, there's a lot. There's a lot of stuff here. I'm just wanting to say hi to Roel in Belgium, and Nikki maybe, and Zanny from the UK. Chiara also from the UK. Sunchima, Steffi from Germany. Hi, Steffi. Ekodar, happy Easter, thank you. And Ludovic. Jeff Foster has said on Conscious TV that incarnating is the crucifixion. Yes. And he says, I know from a series of experiences that by taking on this human experience, we gave our life for these humans. That also they would one day enjoy the knowledge that they are pure altruistic charity. Coming back to our true identity is coming back to our life. Yes, absolutely. So Ludovic, I can't read out everything, But yeah, he says, as a reminder, I tell myself now and then, whatever it is, also this was I willing to experience out of pure charity for this human I seem to be and my neighbors. So for you, it's really the aliveness in this life is love for this humanness, compassion, charity. Yeah, thank you for sharing this. And Maike says she would love to share with us. So Maike, please come on to the Hangout. Do you find the link on the Living from Love website? living-from-love.com. So you can join us there. So maybe she'll be able to come on. Until then, do any of you feel called to share anything else, Susanne or
Well, I have a poem
or Nishkala?
that it feels really apropos of our sharings, today.
Mm-hmm.
The Rumi poem, it's short. There comes a holy and transparent time when every touch of beauty opens the heart to tears. This is the time the beloved of heaven is brought tenderly on earth. This is the time of the opening of the rose.
Just read that out again, because your voice froze at the end.
Did? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Just a little bit.
Too bad. Okay. There comes a holy and transparent time when every touch of beauty opens the heart to tears. This is the time the beloved of heaven is brought tenderly on earth. This is the time of the opening of the rose. It reminds me of the portal, the opening, the portal of this death and rebirth. That it's just this time that we're speaking about with our beloved people that we've loved and who touched our hearts and moved on and opened something within us. And just in general, the time of the death and resurrection of Christ. This is the time of the opening of the rose. To me, the rose is, for me right now in this moment, it can be so many things. It's the heart, the rose of the heart. As it opens to itself, an ever greater ability, the love of the heart for life, within all that it brings. The things that are coming and going right now. And letting ourselves be touched. I mean, this is what the poem also brings to me, and your stories today, is that we allowed ourselves to be touched. And by being touched, being touched brought me deeper into myself. And I feel that the kind of the innate connection with you all and with others, just letting myself be touched to that degree, I think, penetrates into the undefended nature of the heart.
And
That
for
would,
me, feels like a life's work, really blooming as that rose, as open as possible to life.
Jeannie, it's like that the life's work of continually allowing the penetration deeper into the undefended nature, and I think that what helps sustain and give like the trust is what Grace you brought up in the very beginning, which the eternalness, it reveals itself within that journey. So it's like sort of like there's this very human undoing and relaxing the defended veils that may have been built up over time. Yeah. So this within time, so it's this kind of undoing that happens within time, all the while we're being the eternal nature of what we are is sustaining and revealing itself simultaneous, and so we get this beautiful grace and bliss that correspondingly supports us in our undoing. Would you agree that's your experience too, Jeannie?
Yeah, very much so. I've always felt mysteriously held, I guess. I think, Nishikala, you mentioned the sort of this unfathomable intelligence that's way beyond our own mind and way beyond even the mind's capacity to really understand it, yet we know it so intimately that there's almost a real benevolence, a real kind of greater good that is a kind of constant throughout our life.
And my sense is that becomes it's so much more easy to perceive in those moments, those strong moments, which become portals of death, of birth, of significant loss, huge loss. Somehow that's what pierces through all the conditioned stuff and conditioning, and just throws us right into that movement of life, that movement into form and out of form and beyond form, that intelligence that is there, that love that is there. I mean, for me, it's interesting how it appears in different shades or different flavors or different what's the word? Scents. At different times or to different people. And that benevolence that you mentioned, Jeannie, or the intelligence that you mentioned, Nishikala, there are different scents, different flavors, different emanations of this. That is the life in us, that is alive beyond this human form.
I found this really beautiful line that someone posted on Facebook today that was apparently in the book of Revelations or something, and it speaks about Christ, and it says that Christ was known to be of human estate, and what they were saying that means is that the divine. I'm just going a little bit off of what you were saying, Grace. It brought up to me the human element, the eternal nature is the divine as well as the human element, and that, and here in the Bible, probably in many different places, it 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 shares outright that Jesus was of the human estate, and so the human estate. I feel like many of us now in this way that I feel like the more people are realizing and opening up to, that the human is the divine, and that it's not just the eternalness that is, what we're all aiming for, but the nuances of that divine intelligence, how it moves within us, and how it helps unravel us to kind of where the flesh itself wakes up to know itself as the divine through and through, including the feelings that ensue, even of grief and loss, and the portal that opens up. So much of that, to me, is the human connection within it all. And the resurrection, to me, is basically re-entering back into the human, with the being pregnant with the understanding and knowing that that the divine is within the flesh, within matter, and then it can really get to move consciously as that, and get more and more revealed over time as that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It's like the human then becomes, there's a radiance about it that somehow always also it touches others, and it invites others into that also, into that spacious being, into that love, into that aliveness. Yeah.
So
I just
beautiful.
want to. So go ahead.
Talking like this, so openly, really gives you that palpable sense of the divine talking to itself through the different forms. It's so palpable. It makes it so kind of deeply present that we are all the same thing, talking to itself about itself. It's so beautiful.
Yes, and what I love also is that, we're all looking for words in our different ways, but it's all about the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. The different flavors, the same, the different perfumes that you were talking about, Grace.
Yes. Actually, perfumes was the word I was looking for, but somehow it just didn't come. So that was it.
A bit late.
Came for you, Jeannie. Yeah. So I'd like to just go to the YouTube comment thread, because Mike has shared some of what she wanted to share on the thread. She says she'd love to share with us the similarity that she has seen in my father. Sorry, I'll put it in the I form. The similarity I have seen in my father who was dying, and a premature baby that I have taken care of, both in the person leaving the body and in the baby entering the body. I could see the heavens shining through their eyes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
The infinite, it's like the infinite that Jeannie was speaking about, and the infinite I was seeing shining through my father's eyes was so real. So real.
It reminds me of also recognizing both in my father, this was over like a week's time or more, in the countenance of the physical form, it became more and more transparent. It was really, and this, of course with my husband as well, to see it wasn't as welcoming to see it in my husband, but it's still, but just this transparency of the dropping away of the persona we know as that one.
Mm.
As a personality as the one we know, and what's left is just this a being, the radiance of being is very there, just at the borderline of the passing. As the, it's really a beautiful thing.
And the radiance of being that, people who are passing and newborns, they radiate. It's and that we wake up to, that we can wake up to within ourselves, right? I think it's so beautiful how it filters through our own individual personality while we're alive. So it's almost like that stained glass analogy, it filters through a type of personality. So it's not stripped away, just pure radiance anymore, because it functions, it operates, it has its conditioning, and also its personality. As you all know, probably, when babies come in, every child, even kittens and animals, they all have different personalities from one another. So that radiance of being, it shines through a vehicle, and to me it's like, can one resurrect? Can one have that vehicle and still maintain connection to the radiance that we are, and actually in kind of, and also joy and joy and delight in the what it's filtering through. I delight in the variety of friends I have, and the different people that show up, in the world. I just I find it astounding, a miracle at how this radiance, this same essence that we all are, is also so uniquely shines through different, in different ways. And then the beauty of becoming more conscious and more self-aware, to me, is that connection, the link between what we always are, is continually available in the midst of our lives, it suffuses really everything that we're even experiencing.
Yes. And I'd like to add, actually, it's not just delighting in how it radiates in others, how it expresses in others. It's actually delighting in how it expresses in us, too, I mean, we're not excluded from that delight. And it's it's not the, oh, I am like this and I'm like that. It's a much more innocent delight. It's like, I mean, how amazing is it that I'd show up like this?
Yeah.
Or I'd be able to do this, It's like, there are things that somehow we're able to do that we never learned, like, one of the things that has been there in my life is music. I mean, yes, I learned music, I learned instruments, but somehow music has always been there for me to fall into, without trying very hard. It's just been there. Or astrology, for some reason, that's always been there too. Not consciously. I mean, I had to make a conscious kind of opening to that, which happened at some point, but there's just like this huge knowledge that is there that, you know, I never learned, but yet here it is. And it's amazing, you know, it's amazing what shows up. And the more we open also to those gifts, and you know, somehow they get used creatively in our lives in all sorts of ways.
Mm-hmm.
So the shining does, you know, as the conditioning falls away, the shining does become more and more radiant, but in very embodied ways. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's quite amazing.
To me, one of the embodied ways is by really deeply grokking, getting. I don't know if you know the word grok. It's kind of an American term, I think. Is when
Well,
you get.
just spell it out for the Europeans.
It's like getting things down in a visceral level, like down to the bone. You know, when you get things down really well, through and through, that we are the divine. That the divine is, to me, that's what, like the deepening into what unity consciousness is really about. It is really getting that everything really is the divine, and I love speaking about it because it's really never ending. How much we can, it's the exploration of that, and to me that really includes the things that we find difficult to welcome. You know, during that process of time where things are becoming more self-aware and maybe we encounter some areas that are difficult inside, that for me part of the what makes it easier to embrace it is realizing this too is the divine. This is God right now being experienced right as it is. So the journey of the inner exploration of divine recognizing itself everywhere, through and through, is to me the ongoing, interesting leading edge of consciousness. Basically, we're like scientists of our own being.
Actually, I'd say we're like lovers of our own being too.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's in love with itself. Yeah.
Yes. And I just want to add, you know, because it so needs adding always, is, you know, that includes the very human experiences, the very challenges, the very, you know, the things that seemingly, from the human perspective, you know, break us. And yes, yet there's something that breaks open in this that comes home ever more deeply. So, you know, for me, it's been, maybe because that's been my own journey also into this being, has been one of surrender, you know, has been one of saying yes over and over and over, you know, bowing to this over and over and over, because there was so much resistance all the time. So somehow, you know, I've come to this radiance through so many deaths. And not everybody does, you know, I mean, everybody's journey is different. But mine has been a journey of many deaths. And actually, I'm totally grateful for it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, whenever another one happens, that's totally okay too. Maybe not totally in that moment, but very quickly. Because I so embrace that invitation into just letting go even more, you know, letting even more conditioning go, letting even more smallness of self go, and just opening even more. The heart can only come more alive in that. So I don't know. I feel it needs to be said because, you know, so many of us, or so many people think that, you know, when they finally wake up, there's no more suffering. And for some, that's true. But for a lot of us, there's actually a lot of clearing out that happens. And it happens through being very humanly challenged and seeing that challenge and you know, dying that yet another death of the ego. And then, you know, what doesn't die shines even more brightly.
When Suzanne, you were speaking, it really brought to mind an excerpt from a poem by Shelley. It's just one verse in which he says, "I am the eye with which the universe beholds itself and knows itself divine." And really that's what we're exploring and explaining here. That knowingly being the eye with which the universe beholds itself and knows its own divinity.
I like that.
It's a really beautiful sharing.
Knowingly knowing it. And then, like Grace was saying earlier, you know, just that delights in itself, you know. When it knowingly knows what it is, I think that it just even though challenges and areas are still wanting perhaps to be reconciled and be returned home, I know they are for me. You know, ongoingly things come up that want to be seen and brought home. I see it like brought home back into the heart. It doesn't feel separate anymore. It feels like one thing. It feels like the I is just so vast. It is the whole, and within that, all these things are arising, and within it, there may be bliss. Within it, there may be some areas that are contracted that are wanting to be worked on, and it's the intelligence guides. You know, the intelligence is guiding the whole thing, and when the I is known to be just, and that either what you could say it is the whole or it is an aspect of the whole. You know, the individual I is an aspect of the large whole, one I, and to me that's the feeling of intactness and of wholeness that we long for, that propelled me on this journey. And when that is really realized, that's like the even when things become difficult, let's say, or there are some elements within life that are difficult, there's something that's at the same time that's enjoying, that's loving the experience, because it's like things are harmonizing and reconciling, and maybe shadows aspects that that had forgotten that it was part of the whole, out of love for itself. To me, it's kind of like an ongoing journey of reconciliation. All the while, there's something that knows that it is that already. So the two themes they run simultaneously. The death and the resurrection basically become a seamless whole, where they're both running simultaneously, where things are returning back to source and things are realizing it is source, all the while that it knows that it is that. So it's like this one continuous whole. And that's something I think also to be said, because I find that it's you know, Grace, what you brought up about that, and I'll put it in my own words, that awakening is not it's not like there's this final end as most of us here now. It's like there's a maturity that comes in that realizes that actually it's kind of like a portal to a beginning.
Mm.
A beginning to with this love affair with self to embrace all the aspects that had forgot that it's love, and that's in the personal, and that's in the body, which is the divine, and then that's within the collective. It kind of feels like maybe that's what the Bodhisattva vow is about. It's like returning back to, because it knows all of it is itself.
One thing that really is coming up for me is to say that there was also a lot of psychology that had been previously running that was no longer possible. Because once the belief in separation has been so radically undone and seen through, there was an awful lot in my own that had been running, a lot of conditioning and a lot of psychology that had previously been running that simply didn't have a leg to stand on anymore. So in the sense that as a human being, of course, there are emotions and responses and feelings, there's also a whole lot of stuff that really simply has no fuel to perpetuate itself anymore, and does fall away and just does never happen again. It really has there's no possibility of it happening again. So it's kind of both, isn't it? That we're living with other humans that we're interacting with and responding with, and we have the entire worldly experience that touches and is responded to. There's also an enormous amount, or at least for me, this has to be said, because otherwise it feels like a kind of half a story, that there is an enormous amount of psychology that really that just cannot exist afterwards.
Yeah. I would say that's my experience as well. That so much falls away, and whatever is there is not seen as a problem anymore. It's just everything gets brought back to the heart in my experience. So it's not like I wish this had dropped away too, or whatever it is. Whatever it is, it's not like seen as a problem anymore. Yeah. But I agree. There's that's the grace. So much of the grace, divine intelligence, just the fuel of whatever's supporting that the experience of feeling separate. When that's resolved, quite a bit, like you say, maybe even most of it, a lot of it. Who knows how much? All the way. I remember one time Adyashanti, he said something to me years ago. He said that awakening is like a train with boxcars, and the front of the train goes through the tunnel. Let's say there's a tunnel, and it comes out the other side, and it knows what it is. But then there are boxcars that need to also go through the tunnel to know that it is that as well. And the boxcars are the conditioned self that it still remains. Whatever remains needs to be seen. But the awakening, it knows what it is. It doesn't necessarily, with abiding awakening or whatever, it doesn't unrealize itself. It just has it's just whatever is there that needs to happen happens in terms of the embodiment part. And he said, you never know how many boxcars any one person has, and we all wish that we only had a few. But he says it. But on one hand, it doesn't matter. It's just that it's love. Love doesn't hold back from itself. It's like if a child is crying, you don't say you should be beyond that now. You have infinite amount of love, and you're just, oh, why are you still crying? You just go and pick up the child, right? It's the same thing. It's like it doesn't dawn on me and people that I know who are going through this, it doesn't seem to dawn on them anymore. The separate self is not in existence to say this shouldn't be happening. So, but I'm glad you said that about the, how much drops away. It's not like a microscope has to go and look at every single thing and for everything psychologically.
And actually, using the analogy of the stained glass window, the personality is then liberated to shine. You know, the self shines through and illuminates the personality. In a way, you're even more the personality. You're even more. You know, there's much more geniness because there aren't the hang-ups, or there's not the inhibition. So you're actually kind of, you're even more Suzanne and more Gracie and more Jeannie kind of thing than perhaps previously there.
Yeah, exactly. Free to be.
Yeah, sure.
Yourselves.
Yeah.
What a welcome thing.
Yeah.
We're all longing to be ourselves. Shine, like unapologetically shine.
Yes. So I think we're kind of winding down, and I'm just going to take another look at the YouTube comments. And let's see, something weird happened there. I think I just have to refresh the thread. For some reason, the comment thread is not loading at the moment. I did see, though, before I reloaded it, I did see that Canella, Michelle Myers had come on and said hi, and also Rena Sun. So hi to both of you. I'm just going to check back.
Is it hard for them to get on the Google Hangout, or is it some people prefer not to?
I don't know. I mean, Rena and Canella, if you want to come on, please do join us. But maybe they're just watching in. I don't know. I'll just try and see. Oh, that YouTube thread just doesn't want to come on. I'll try one more time.
A farmer, a researcher. You used to spend.
What was that?
Okay, here we go. All right. I just got it back. So, Rolf says thank you to Nishkala. Most beautiful to your sharing. says, it occurs to me that in meeting this ourselves, we are also able to stay more open with people dying. Yes, absolutely. You know, meeting death in ourselves and others is really the same thing ultimately. So Canella says, I'm here smiling with you all. So cool, lovely. And Rena says, beautiful sitting here with you all. Ludovic says, God, as humans, we are extensions of God. We are God in human appearance. That is the good news. And Xstars3 says, would like to understand more. I am from Germany and don't understand all that is spoken, but I can feel it.
Yeah.
Happy Easter to you. Oh, thank you. That's much more important than understanding everything. You really understood. And Bina says, unapologetically shine. Yes. She says it's 4:40 a.m. in the morning here. Oh, wow, Rena, you really got up early. And Rule says, thanks to everyone. It was the most beautiful sharing, heartfelt.
Oh.
And Bruce Finley says, thank you for the great beauty shining through each of you. So very much appreciated. And Lila Victory says, just started watching. Thanks and happy Easter.
It's so touching hearing everybody, and a lot of those people I know, and or through different ways, and so it just feels, doesn't it feel? It feels so touching to realize that we're just this one big human family.
Yes, yes, it is beautiful. And that's really, I guess that's really why I'm doing these events, because they're just ways of getting together and speaking what needs to be spoken, and what just wants to be spoken over and over and over in different ways with different people. And when it is spoken, it always touches so directly. It's just beautiful sharing that with all of you. Yeah. So I want to thank you, Susanne.
Thank you. Sure. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, and thanks again to Molly's. Thanks Jeannie for coming on from England. And thank you, Nishkala. If you'd like, you can say something to everybody to end with. Feel free to do that. Does anybody feel they want to, just say some parting words?
No, I just would like to say that just feeling the connection, the human connection. And I love how that felt connection can be experienced even within this format. And even though we can't see the people right now, that I feel them, and the heart just gets activated. And to me, that's like what a great opportunity to be sharing with one another. And just want to say thank you.
Thank you to you, Susanne.
And it's lovely seeing Jeannie and Nishkala.
I am Susanna.
So sweet. What a little Easter treat. A special chocolate.
Jeannie, did you want to say anything?
Well, I sort of unwittingly kind of gate crashed the party a little bit, but it's just beautiful to see you guys and to talk about this, our favourite subject. And yeah, it's kind of like there's no such place as far away. It's so beautiful that we're all in different continents and that we can feel each other so intimately. Beautiful.
Yeah. And don't think of it as gate crashing. You were just meant to be here, so you will.
Oh yeah, all your contributions have been so perfect, so beautiful. Couldn't have been. It was orchestrated. What do I say?
Yes.
Orchestrated.
Divine orchestration.
Most reliable.
Yes, and thank you to you, Nishkala, too, for sharing this. What you shared about the divine orchestration, the divine intelligence, I just found to be very deeply true.
Yeah, for some reason, it's in these real, you could say, these heightened moments, near death or crises, as we call them. It becomes so obvious, fortunately, that it's divine orchestrated. Somehow, it really hits home.
Yes, yes. And you hear people say that so often, it's like, I need, when they get news about, an illness or someone having passed or having lost a job or whatever it is that's seemingly, terrible. You hear so many people say, realize that this is meant to be like this. There is this divine orchestration that's happening. And they know it. They know it so deeply, and that helps going through that experience also,
Yeah, it's not just words or something to comfort us. It's a real knowing.
Yes. Yes, totally. Yeah.
Beautiful. What a beautiful satsang together.
Yeah, so
this format of having a conversation, like this, like being in a living room together. Special.
So thank you again to all of you, and thank you to those of you who've joined us. It's just been lovely. I'm so, I'm thrilled to be doing this on Easter. It's a wonderful celebration for me. And so thank you again. And next Sunday, I'll be speaking to Prajna Ginti about tragedy. So we'll probably come back to the divine orchestration in tragedy, seemingly tragic life events. So if you'd like to join us for that, please feel free. And as always, I'm also happy for you to make a donation to contribute towards my offering these ongoing live events for free. And we'll see you again soon. Bye. And happy Easter.